Hello friends, in this video we are going to discuss how to create and deploy the API gateway that is integrated with AWS Lambda functions through serverless application model. So basically it internally uses the cloud formation template and how we can deploy all these things through the cloud formation template from Visual Studio. So we will create a project in Visual Studio and we will create Lambda function methods and we will deploy it through CloudFormation template. In the previous video, we have discussed how to create a Lambda function and how to deploy it to AWS Lambda. And also we have explicitly created the API gateway and we have integrated those Lambda functions with the API gateway explicitly. Now in this video, through the concept of Lambda annotations, we will deploy all these things combined in a CloudFormation template. So let us quickly start our video. I have noted down all the steps that we are going to perform. So here, first of all, we will create a project in Visual Studio and we will install the required packages. And the third step, we will implement the methods, the REST API methods to perform the CRUD operations. CRUD operations means we are going to perform the CRUD operations on DynamoDB table. And the fourth step, we will publish our code to AWS Lambda. So once we publish our code to AWS Lambda, it is going to deploy through the CloudFormation template and it is going to deploy all the required components like API gateway, Lambda execution role, and Lambda functions, etc. So we will see how that will happen. And fifth step, we will provide the access permissions. So it is going to create the Lambda execution role, and as we discussed in our previous videos, we need to provide the access to access the DynamoDB table and perform the CRUD operations. So we are going to give the access permissions through creating an inline policy that we will discuss. And as a fifth step, we will test all our functions in the Postman. So let us quickly start our video. Let me open the Visual Studio. I have Visual Studio 2022 in my desktop. I am opening it and let me create the project. Uh, in the previous video, we think we did all these things, but we combined it explicitly. Like we have created Lambda function, we have created API gateway, and we have integrated the Lambda function with the API gateway. Now in this video, we will do all these things in a single step through CloudFormation template, right? So let me click on this new project. Here we have two options. If we choose this AWS serverless application, it will deploy all the no it will create all the required configurations, like it will create the serverless.template file and it will have all the required necessary configurations. But if we choose this template, we need to install the necessary required NuGet packages like Lambda annotations explicitly. So we will check this method. If you want, I have also created a one video to deploy Lambda function through web API. So if you want, I will provide the link in the description. You can go through that video. But in this video, let us check this approach. Let me click on this and let me give the name as AWS Lambda SAM, which stands for Serverless Application Model. Let me click on Create Project. Here, let us choose this project empty function and we will do all the things from the scratch. So let me choose this one and click on Finish. Now we have completed the first step. So let me keep this as done. And we need to install these three packages to create the REST API methods and deploy it through CloudFormation template. So we require all these three packages, NuGet packages to be installed. So let us go to the Visual Studio function, Visual Studio project that we have created just now. So let me close it. Go to Solution Explorer, right click. First of all, let us build the project and check if it got built successfully without any errors. Yeah, it got built successfully. Now let us go to the Solution Explorer, right click, not publish, manage NuGet packages. Here, first of all, we need to install Lambda Annotations. This Lambda Annotations is going to create the CloudFormation templates, required CloudFormation template, which is useful in deploying our components. So annotations that can be added to Lambda projects to generate C# code and CloudFormation templates. So this library is currently in dev preview. So it has in dev preview. So let us choose this and click on install. After this, we are going to install API gateway events. So once this got installed, it got installed. That is why it is showing in green tick mark. And we need to install API gateway events. Amazon Lambda API gateway events. Let us choose this and click on install. After this, we are going to write code to access DynamoDB table. So that is why we need to install the package SDK for DynamoDB table. So it has got installed. Now let us install DynamoDB SDK. Now, Amazon DynamoDB is a fast and flexible NoSQL database service for all applications that need consistent single-digit multi-second latency at any scale. So it has given the description. Let us choose this and install this SDK. We need this SDK to access the DynamoDB table and do the operations on it. So now we have installed all the three required packages. So let us mark this as done. And as a third step, we will implement the code or methods, REST API methods to perform the CRUD operations on DynamoDB table. So we need to perform this step. So let us go to the Solution Explorer. And this is the function.cs file. So if you observe now, what I'm going to show you is, let me ping this. Once I decorate this method, let me remove all these things. Once I decorate this method with Lambda function, it is going to add a file called serverless.template. So if you see, you can observe I'm adding the, before adding, I'm including that namespace using amazon.lambda.annotations. So I'm decorating this method with Lambda function. So see, if you observe, see here, once I type Lambda function, it is going to uh, add the file serverless.template. See, once I added this, it has got added success automatically. So in this serverless template, it is nothing but a CloudFormation template. Internally, it uses the CloudFormation template to deploy these components to AWS. So I have decorated this as Lambda function, and this is a REST API method. I'm considering it as a REST API method, REST API, and the second parameter is API method type. This is the get method because we are going to fetch the customer details. The function handler, see, if you see, it is going to include this in under the resources section. The function handler. Let me change this name. If you observe, once I change this name, it will also got reflected automatically here. See, I am changing this as get customer async, as this function is going to return the customer details. Now if you see the serverless template, see, no, it has not reflected. Get customer async. Let me save this. Okay, the second parameter we need to pass the template string template, the path, like how it should be, customers slash customers and slash, we're going to pass the customer ID as the input parameter. See, if you observe, we have all the red lines, red squiggly lines. These lines will get removed because here the parameter is input and here we are defining it as customer ID. So they both should match. Once if I change it, if you carefully observe, these errors will deleted. So I have changed it. I'm saving it. See, now this has gone. Now if you see the serverless template, see, get customer async and the path, this is the path, and the method type is get. So all these things will be added automatically by Lambda Annotations framework. Now go to the functions. Let us remove this. In the previous video, we have written the code to fetch the customer details. Let me copy that code from that video. So here, get customer async. So we need these two lines of code. So here DynamoDB context, and we can remove this. This is a string we are getting, and also we need to add the class customer class. So let me copy that customer class. If you want, you can go through my previous video how we have implemented all these things explicitly and integrated those things. So this is the customer class. And what next? This is the customer ID we are receiving in string format. We need to convert it to GUID format. So GUID dot try parse of customer ID, comma out GUID ID. So this try parse method will convert this customer ID string parameter, and it will convert it to GUID format, and it will pass that value to this ID. So let us pass this GUID ID to this method, and as this is going to return, as here we are using await, we need to use the word async here. So the and here the return type should be the customer. So task of customer, get customer async, and we need to return this. Now all errors are gone. So this is the get customer async, and similarly we will implement the method to save the customer details. So we will, this method type is post, and we will call this method as post customer async, and we don't need to pass the customer ID here for this post. And we are going to receive the customer details. So let me change the type as customer and the parameter name, argument name as obj customer, and we are going to receive this customer object from body. So let us decorate this attribute with decorate this argument with the attribute from body. Now we don't need to convert this here because we are going to receive the customer object, and instead of load async we need to call as save async, and here we don't need to return anything. Let me keep it as void post customer async void and the obj customer. We don't need to return anything. Let me remove this. Similarly, we will implement a method lambda function for deleting the customer. Let me copy and paste it over here and change as required. This method type is delete, and let us give the name as delete customer async, and this method is not going to return anything, so let me keep it as void, and we are going to receive the customer ID, and we are going to parse it to the GUID format, and we don't return anything here. This is delete customer async, delete async, and we are going to pass the ID. So instead of defining in this method, let us define in a constructor so that we don't need to duplicate this code. So to define the constructor CTOR, if you type and click on tab, it will frame the constructor. So let me copy it over here, and if you click on this bulb, it will define the field, it will generate the field. This is the DynamoDB context. Let me put it as underscore DynamoDB context. As we have defined it in customer, we don't need to define here. We can remove it. We can modify it. Just remove. We'll have one line of code, and from here also I'm going to remove that underscore. Now we have defined all our three methods. One is get customer, post customer, and delete customer. And in the serverless template, the Lambda annotations framework, it will automatically add those resources, delete customer async, and this is the path, and this is post customer async, and this is the path, and this is the get customer async. So this code will be added by the Lambda annotations framework. And we have completed the third step as well. Let me build this project and check if we have any build errors. So build succeeded. So let me mark this step as done. We have completed this, and we need to publish our code to AWS Lambda. So to publish our code, we have the option here, right click and publish to AWS Lambda. So to get this option, you need to install the extension AWS Toolkit. So you can install that from here, manage extensions, and you can search here and you can install the AWS Toolkit. So once you install the AWS Toolkit, you will have this option, publish AWS Lambda. So I'm just clicking on it to publish AWS Lambda. Here we need to provide the S3 bucket name because it is going to deploy it through AWS CloudFormation stack. So and it is going to zip the code and place it in the S3 bucket. So for that purpose, we need to define the bucket and give that bucket name here. As I have already created a bucket, and in my account I have a bucket called lambda code 1722. So that is why I'm able to select it from the drop down. And if you want to know how to connect to AWS from Visual Studio, I have already video created on it. You can go through that video. As we have already connected to AWS, our account, it is showing the profile and the region. And here we need to provide the stack name. Stack name is nothing but the collection of resources that the cloud formation is going to create. So we'll call it as a stack. So let us give it as Lambda gateway stack. So in this stack, we are having these two resources, API gateway and Lambda. That's why I have provided this name like that. So let me click on publish. So it is going to create the cloud formation stack and going to publish our resources. Just let us wait. If you, in the meanwhile, let me go to the AWS services and click on cloud formation. Click on stacks. So we don't have any stacks. Still it is deploying. Just let us wait for a moment. Now it is, now we got this video. So stack name, Lambda gateway stack. Now if we go to our AWS account and if we refresh here, we will see that stack and we will see its progress, create in progress. So if you go to the events, we can see all the events, create in progress, create complete, create in progress. So let us refresh. Once it completes, create complete. Now it has completed the creation. So if you see, these are the events. If you to go to the Visual Studio and if you see create in progress, let us refresh here. Create complete. Now it has showing as create complete. Now let us go here and if you see the resources, You can check here what are all the resources that got deployed through this CloudFormation stack. So this is the gateway serverless REST API we have created, and this is the uh, method Lambda stack SAM function. This is the permission, AWS Lambda permission, and this is the IAM role and the Lambda functions. We have three Lambda functions. So these are all the resources, and if you see the template, you can check the template here. It has used this template to create all these resources, and also you can see it in designer mode. If you click on view in designer, we can see it in designer. What are the resources that got created through this CloudFormation stack? It has gone somewhere. Yeah. So we have created three Lambda functions and three Lambda execution roles and one API gateway. So you can check all the resources in designer mode here. And let me close it. Now we have completed this step. Publish our code to AWS Lambda. And we need to give access permissions to the Lambda execution roles to provide access to a DynamoDB table. So let us go to the Lambda function first. And we should see three Lambda functions for get customer, post customer, and delete customer, which got deployed through this CloudFormation template. So let us open the get customer, AWS Lambda. This is delete customer, this is get customer. Let me open this Lambda function. See, if you see, this is integrated with API gateway. So if you click on this, you can see the endpoint to invoke this Lambda function. And before invoking, we need to provide permissions. So let us go to the permissions. And this is the execution role, Lambda execution role. For this role, let us provide the permissions to read, write DynamoDB table items. Before that, let me open the DynamoDB table, and we want the table ARN as well. So before that, let me, here we have this is the basic Lambda basic execution role, and let us click on create inline policy. Here we need to choose the service DynamoDB. Actions, what we want to provide is, we want to provide actions for getting item, describe table, and in the right section we want to provide permissions to update item, put item, delete item, and we need to provide the ARN. We know, so specific, for the specific table we want to provide these permissions only for a specific table, so we want to provide that table ARN. So let us go to the DynamoDB table and fetch that DynamoDB tables ARN. From there, click on tables. This is the table for which we want to provide the permissions. So if you scroll here under overview section in the additional info, this is the ARN. Let me copy that and give it over here. So it has filled the remaining details. Table name is customer and region. Click on add. Now just click on review policy. Let me get this JSON, because for other Lambda execution roles, we can directly copy and paste this JSON. instead of doing all these things. So let me copy and paste it over here. Click on review policy and provide the policy name. For this is the for get, so DynamoDB get access. Create policy. Now again we will go to another function, post customer. So this is the post customer. See, this is also integrated with API gateway. If you click on this API gateway, you can check the URL that we are going to use to invoke this function from API gateway. Now let us go to the permissions and click on this, and for this function as well we need to provide permissions to access the DynamoDB table. As we have copied that JSON, we don't need to do all these steps. We can save the time by directly copying that JSON policy directly. So let me click on add inline policy, create inline policy. So instead of doing all these things, we can directly copy and paste this JSON, and we can click on review policy. As we are giving this for posting the customer, DynamoDB post access. Click on create policy. Now let us navigate to the Lambda function that we have created to delete the customer. So this is the Lambda function. Similarly, for this function as well, we need to provide the access permissions to the DynamoDB table for that Lambda execution role. See, this is integrated with API gateway. And let me click on configuration, permissions, open this. Click create inline policy. We'll paste that JSON policy here as well. So click on JSON. Let me paste it properly. Review policy and DynamoDB delete access. Delete item. Delete item access. Create policy. Now we have completed the other step as well. So if you see, we will give access permissions to Lambda execution role for accessing DynamoDB table. This is done. The final step, testing. So let us test our Lambda functions from Postman. First, we will test the get customer. So before testing, let us go to the DynamoDB table and click on explore table items. Let us see, we have two records. So first we will try to fetch this Microsoft customer. So for that, let us go to the Lambda functions, and to get the customer we are using this Lambda function. Let me click on this and let us fetch the invocation URL. So this Lambda function is integrated with this API gateway. So if you click on this API gateway, you can see here the endpoint that we are going to use and the details. In the details, we are going to see the resource path, and this is the API gateway stage prod statement ID. So let me copy this URL, and we have Postman. We can test it from Postman. Let me open this in Postman. Click on new window. Let me paste it over here and we need to pass here the customer ID. So first, let us get that customer ID. The DynamoDB table Microsoft record we are going to fetch. So let me copy this ID and paste it over here. And this is the get method, send. See, it has returned this customer. And the second Lambda function, that is post customer, that we will test it. So go to the Lambda functions. Let me open a new tab, duplicate. So we will fetch the invocation URL from here, the functions. So this is the post customer. So let us select it and open. This is integrated with a API gateway. Let us select here, and here we will get the invocation URL to post the customer, to save the customer details. So let me copy this, and if you see, this is a post method. So let us go to our postman, take a new window and give the URL here, and the method type is post. So let us choose the post, and the body, in the body we need to pass the customer details. So click on raw, and here you select as JSON, and go here, and let us copy this customer details, and we are going to modify it and post it and create a new customer. So let me change this 1A3 as 2B4. So this is the GUID for the customer ID and customer name created from postman. So let me click on send. Wow, excellent. So 200. Okay, we got. Let us go to our DynamoDB table and we will check there. So we have two items. I'm refreshing it here. Yeah, see, post created from postman. Now we have three customers. Now let us test the delete functionality as well. So let us go here and click on the functions, and let us open that delete customer, this one. We need to fetch the invocation URL that we can get it from here. If we click on API gateway, see here, this is the invocation URL. Let me copy it, and this method type is delete. So if you see the details, the method type is delete. So let me go to the postman, take new window and paste it over here, and choose this as delete, and let us delete the same customer that we have created previously, which was created from postman. Let me copy this ID and paste it over here. Now this customer should get deleted. Let me click on this send. Excellent, we got 200. Okay, so let us check there. So now we have three records. I'm refreshing it. Once I refresh, this should got deleted. So let me check. Wonderful, now we have only two records. So we have completed all the steps successfully. This is also done. And in this video, we have uh, installed the required NuGet packages through Lambda Annotations. We did all these things. But in one of my videos, I have also explained how to create this through API gateway. So I will provide the link in the description. If you want, you can also go through that video, how to create a web API and install and deploy it through AWS Lambda. So we have completed this video successfully. Thank you so much, friends, for listening my video so patiently. Thank you so much.